What's up, guys? It's Jacob from QuadHunting, and today we are going to talk about the Lions head coaching vacancy and the potential head coaches that have already been reached out to by the Lions as they were getting permission to interview them. So, they fired Jim Caldwell earlier today on the 1st. I'm recording this at 7 o'clock p.m. They fired him. It was earlier this morning before I woke up, so it was early. Well, actually, I'd wake up late. But anyways, they fired Caldwell. He had collected a 36-28 record over his 4 seasons with the team. 3 winning seasons, 2 trips to the playoffs, no divisional titles, and no playoff wins. That was pretty much the sticking point in why he was getting fired. I think if there had been one playoff win or division title in there, this wouldn't be happening. I believe this is all because of that. And I believe Bob Quinn pretty much was just like, all right, let's try one more season, see what happens. And obviously didn't end the way we wanted it to, which is not playing anymore. Football season's done. So, yep, they missed the playoffs for, this is second time they missed the playoffs with Caldwell. So they made the playoffs twice. They had 3 winning seasons. I don't know if I said that earlier or if I messed it up, but that's what it is. So, and this is basically because of the Bengals game. There are a couple games this season that you could have been like justified why Caldwell was getting fired. The Bengals game was one of them. The Steelers game and the Saints game, I think, were the 3 bad games this season. Basically, we're one bad, stupid rule from being in the playoffs in that Falcons game. We would have been in the playoffs, and I don't think Caldwell would have been fired. So you can point back at a stupid rule that exists in the NFL to why Caldwell was fired. There's many other things. The season obviously went on, and they could have won a couple more games and were spots where they should have, where they lost. But so these are the 6. The Lions so far have reached out to 6 coaches as they were interested in, and then I have a couple of other coaches that are been linked by fans. So hold as much weight in those as you want. So that I have just these 6. They're not in any particular order. I'm going to start with the one that a lot of Lions fans want, though, and that is the Patriots defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia. He's 43 years old. He spent 14 seasons with the New England Patriots, 6 as their defensive coordinator, 1 as an offensive assistant, 1 as an offensive assistant line coach, and 5 as a linebacker coach, and 1 as a safeties coach. He's easily the most diverse coaching experience coach we're looking at. So he is the one that a lot of Lions fans are wishing on, and I don't know how I feel. Patriots coaches don't tend to do very well outside of the Patriots. If you look at Josh McDaniels, and Bill O'Brien's been okay. Those are the 2 that have really went out and branched out and done decent. So, well, not decent, not even decent. Bill O'Brien's done all right. McDaniels was awful, and he's one of the ones fans are linked to, and I don't want anything to do with McDaniels. He destroyed that Denver Broncos team. You don't draft. He made the call to draft Tebow first overall, so that shows how smart he isn't. And I believe most of his success is just tied to Tom Brady being great. So Patricia, though, overall in his 6 seasons as the defensive coordinator, has led the Patriots as averaged out the 18th in yards, 7th in points, 14th in turnovers, 12th in forced fumbles, 14th in interceptions, 21st in passing, 13th in rushing, and 8th in points per drive allowed. That was an interesting stat I found. I just thought it was interesting that they kept track of that. I didn't even realize that was a stat people kept track of, but I think that's okay. That's pretty good. It's in the top third for points per drive. So yeah, that's a top quarter almost. Yeah, that is. He's right on the cusp of the top quarter. So obviously they have, if you look at the stats, the Patriots have always been that bend, don't break defense. 18th in yards. They're allowing yards, but they're 7th in points, so they're stopping them inside the red zone for only a field goal. And they're decent at turnovers, getting their 14th averaged. So it's pretty solid. I'll take it. I'll take that. Stats wise, he's not a bad defensive coach. This last season is pretty brutal. All those numbers were way down. One thing I did notice is that they were low on the passing defense and higher on the rushing, and that is more because of, I'm going to attribute that to the Patriots offense with the Patriots get these leads most games, and so the other teams are just have to catch up, and then they just stop running and start passing, and that is where you see that passing number go down because they're giving up those passing yards. So he's probably wish list number 1. Is the first name that got linked to the job. So, and as Bob Quinn is a former Patriots guy, obviously the guy that's linked to the Patriots or is on the Patriots. Anyone who's played for the Patriots is obviously linked to the Lions. So moving on, this is another one that it was the last one I think announced today. They haven't announced another one since I've seen this one, but that is the Lions' own defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, is being interviewed for the job. He's interviewing tomorrow, the Tuesday, and he is 52 years old. He spent 4 teams as the defensive coordinator for the Lions. I'm not going to go into his history because we know what he is. He's a known commodity here. Overall, he's averaged out as 16th in yards, 15th in points, 16th in turnovers, 17th in forced fumbles, 13th in interceptions, 18th in passing, 14th in rushing, and 19th in points per drive. Very mediocre stats. Of course, obviously, the best season was 2014 when the Lions defense was stacked with names like Quinn, Levy, Slay's start. I think that was his second year. You had Sue. I think I said that already. Fairley. So they had a stacked defensive unit, and that was, of course, when they played the best. They started losing some pieces, Sue, Fairley, and Levy, and, of course, they got worse and worse over the years because of just the lack of talent. I believe next year you could see those numbers go up, though, because I believe we have some good pieces in place on defense. So he's a potential candidate. I don't know if I'd link him second, third, fourth, sixth. I don't know. Third, fourth, sixth. I didn't even say fifth. But I don't know where I'd put any of these so much as who I want and who I don't want. So far, the one I want the most isn't even being interviewed. I'll get into that later. He hasn't even been requested for an interview yet. Another person is the Carolina Panthers defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, who's 48. He spent 6 years with the Panthers. Only 1 as the defensive coordinator, but 3 as the assistant head coach and 5 as the DB coach. He has spent a total of 16 years in the NFL, 3 additional years in Chicago and San Diego. He's only spent 1 year as defensive coordinator, so that was this year, obviously, and the Carolina Panthers came out as the 7th in yards, 11th in points, 16th in turnovers, 7th in forced fumbles, 24th in interceptions, 18th passing, 3rd rushing, and 12th points per drive. It's kind of hard to judge them compared to an Austin or a Patricia, so I can't really fairly say that those numbers are amazing because it's only been 1 season. But he's been with the Panthers as the DB coach for a while, and their defensive backs have not been awful. So there's that. He could easily come in and coach up these players a little more, and especially these defensive backs. So that could be a plus. It just depends. I don't know. It's hard to judge how a defensive coach will be as a head coach. But probably the least qualified in my eyes on this list of getting interviewed is the Texans defensive coordinator, Mike Vrabel. He's the former linebacker that played for the Patriots, the Chiefs, and there was another team. I just can't remember it right now. But he is 42, 4 years with the Texans, 3 as a linebacker coach, 1 as the defensive coordinator this year. And it was not a good year for that defense. They had a lot of injuries, and they were 20th in yards, 32nd in points, 27th in turnovers, 29th in forced fumbles, 20th in interceptions, 24th in passing, 13th in rushing, and 30th in points per drive allowed. That's not good. Yes, he's younger. He's not like a McVay for the Rams young or Kyle Shanahan young. He's a little older, and not older, but he's very an unknown commodity as a head coach, I would think. He is a former linebacker, so he does have experience, and he could help coach up our linebacking unit. Jared Davis would probably love that, but I don't know if I'd bring him in as a head coach. That's more of a defensive coordinator type thing. I don't know about head coach. He's the one I'm the least excited about, I guess, as a head coach. I mean, I'm excited because we don't really know much about him, and that could be an unknown commodity, could be amazing. But at the same time, he could easily just be a bust. So, and this is a really important hire which will drive the Lions' future. Next is the former head coach, the Vikings offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur. He's 52. He spent 2 years with the Vikings, one as a tight end coach. He spent part of that season as the interim offensive coordinator, and then this year he was the offensive coordinator. He's been a head coach for 33 games, 32 with the Browns in 2011 and 2012, and then one with the Eagles when he was an interim head coach in 2015 after Chip Kelly got fired. He has an overall record of 10-23, 9-23 as the main head coach, 1-0 as an interim head coach. He's spent an overall of 19 years in the NFL. And this year, with the Vikings offense, they were 11th in yards, 10th in points, 3rd in turnovers allowed, 7th in fumbles lost, 2nd in interceptions thrown, 11th in passing, 7th in rushing, and 8th in points per drive. That's good offensive numbers, especially when your quarterback is a guy that going into the season no one thought was going to be anything. In Case Keenum, he was the 3rd string guy there. 2nd string guy, if Bridgewater had been healthy, he'd have been the 3rd string guy. So, to come in and do that and your main running back gets hurt and Dalvin Cook, and they're still able to crank out great numbers as an offense and win the NFC North and get a bye week in the playoffs. Not a lot of people expected that. If you look at the whole NFC playoff picture, I don't think a lot of people expected a lot of those teams to be there. So he is – I wouldn't be upset with Shermer, but I think he's not too far above – I think he's actually I would take him over Vrabel and Wilkes for sure. Basically because he has experience as a head coach, and people want to say, well, his record's bad. Well, he was the coach of the Browns. What do you expect? Hugh Jackson's 1-32 with the Browns, 1-31 with the Browns, and he's considered to still be okay. So I'm not concerned with him having that 10-23 record. That's not concerning to me. So he can do better with a team that's actually better. So and the last guy the Lions have reached out to is a Packers assistant head coach, Winston Moss, who is 52. He spent 12 years with the Packers as a linebacker coach and 1 as an assistant head coach. He's spent a total of 19 years in the NFL. He's a former player. I found that out. He was drafted in the 2nd round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1987 and played till 1997. So he's got a 10-year career as a linebacker, which could be valuable, again, to a Jared Davis, but I don't know if that's a guy you bring in as your head coach, or if you'd want to bring him in as a defensive coordinator. So those are the 6 guys the Lions have reached out to. I'm not sure who I want the most. I feel like Terrell Austin, what he brings to the table, and I believe that would be the one that Lions fans would be kind of upset with, kind of feel like it's the same. I wouldn't be too upset with Austin. I understand why they want Patricia. I'm not sure how I feel about him as well. Basically because those Patriots coordinators have not been too successful outside of the Patriots. Steve Wilkes is all right. Vrabel I'm not excited about. And Shermer I'd be okay with. And Winston Moss, again, I don't know how I'd feel about him. I know he's been an assistant head coach for a while, and he's been highly touted, and Packers love him apparently. He was one of the only defensive coaches to survive a firing in, I think it was 08, 09. So I don't know. I don't know about Winston Moss. I don't really know about a lot of these guys. I feel like right now the order would probably be Patricia, Austin, Shermer, Wilkes, Moss, and Vrabel for me out of those 6. That'd be the order I would hire them in. Of course, there's other teams competing. There's 6 other job openings right now in the NFL. And then we have some coaches that have been linked by fans that fans are hopeful for, and then one that I'm hopeful for. I'll go with what the fans are hopeful for first. That's Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. I've already talked about how don't want any part of that. The Lions' own Jim Bob Cooter. Offensive coordinator. Maybe you can stay there, but I don't want you as the head coach. The Seahawks defensive coordinator Chris Richard. The Seahawks have turned out some pretty decent head coaches there. Former Raiders head coach Jack Del Rio, who I believe was an injury. The main reason he got fired was, number 1, is because his quarterback got injured, Derek Carr. Number 2, he's coaching the team that's probably I don't want to say one of the worst ownership things, but they just changed their mind on a whim with the Raiders. They're just like, yeah, you got us the playoffs last year, but yeah, your franchise quarterback got hurt. No excuse. If there was no excuse, Mike McCartney would be out in Green Bay. It's happened twice to him. But I believe Jack Del Rio could still be a decent head coach, especially with the pieces he has. And I believe the Lions and Raiders are kind of have the same pieces in place if you look at it. Frank Reich for the Eagles offensive coordinator has been linked by fans, and Dave Toub, the Chiefs special teams coordinator, which I thought was interesting. The special teams coordinator would be thrown up in there as a head coach option. But right now, those are the ones. And then the one I am interested in, the one that I'd probably top my wish list, is the Vikings defensive coordinator, George Edwards. That Vikings defense is lethal. I love what he's done with it. I want to see if he could do that with the Lions and see how, and then if he could just get an offensive coordinator in place that could just call the offensive plays and he could just focus on defense, that is my dream scenario. So George Edwards, my dream scenario. A lot of other fans want the McDaniels, Cooters, Richards, Del Rios. Del Rio I'd be okay with. I'd be totally okay with Del Rio. Frank Reich, I don't know much about. He's done really good with Carson Wentz this last year. And then Toub, I don't know how to pronounce that, is the chief special teams coordinator. I don't know how has there been special teams coordinators that made the jump? Wasn't John Harbaugh the special teams coordinator at one point? I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't know. But those are the ones right now, linked by fans. The ones that you really should be paying attention to are Terrell Austin, Patricia, Wilkes, Vrabel, Shermer, and Moss, as they're the ones who have been, the Lions have requested permission to interview them, as the Panthers, Patriots, and Vikings are all in the playoff picture. The Patriots and Vikings, I think they can interview their guys this week because they have bye week, and then they can interview the rest of the teams as they fall out of the playoffs. So they can, obviously, if the Packers grant permission, they can interview Moss, and they can interview Vrabel if the Texans grant permission. And of course, they're interviewing Austin tomorrow. So I don't know who I want. I don't know who feels good as a Lions head coach next. It's a crapshoot. They got to make this pick right. They got to make this pick right. You can't go from where you were at least contending and at least winning games, the majority of the games you were winning, to being one of the worst again. You can't do that. You can't go from where they were bad, they were really bad, they were bad. Caldwell got them to the good, consistently good level, and now you need someone that will take the next step, and that next step is the hardest step to take in the NFL, to go from a good team. A lot of fans have been saying mediocre, but they've been a good team pretty much over the last 4 years for the most part. You don't want to go from a good team back down. You want to make that next step, and find that coach that can take that next step is extremely hard in the NFL. Bill Belichick's don't grow on trees. So this is going to be a really, really interesting time to see the next couple weeks. I believe it'll be the next couple weeks. Maybe if they really want Patricia and the Patriots make a run at the Super Bowl, it could be next month until we hear about the Lions head coach. I would foresee the choice being made in the next month and a half. So, of course, more coaches are going to be listed. More coaches are going to be linked. We'll find out that in the next coming weeks and months. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be done talking. So if you like the video, go ahead and leave a like down below. Leave us a comment. Anything you want me to talk about in the next upcoming videos. Give me ideas. Let me know who you think should be the next head coach of the Detroit Lions. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel for all content related to the Lions. I will see you guys all next time.